Hello, my name's Keith, and in this video we're going to talk about the fourth precept in Buddhism. The fourth precept in Buddhism is Musa Vada Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami. So what does Musa Vada mean? Well, it means false speech. It means lying. So the fourth precept, get it right, the fourth precept is that we undertake the training rule to abstain from lying, from saying things that are untrue. That seems like a very sensible precept. However, it's one of the more difficult ones to keep because there are lots of opportunities for us to be untrue. For example, if somebody accuses us of something and there may be some element of truth in it, but we want to protect our own image, we may adjust the truth slightly. We may say little white lies, or maybe say things from our perspective, which, whilst technically true, hide perhaps something underneath that makes us look bad. Now, these would all be examples, very obvious examples, of not following the fourth precept. We could have some other examples as well. So, what about telling a little child about Father Christmas existing, or the Tooth Fairy existing, or the Easter Bunny existing? With my daughter, we took the view that we wouldn't lie about these things. And so we were very truthful with her from the start. And some people would say, yes, but then you're denying her an opportunity to experience the magic of Christmas or Easter or the losing of a tooth, I guess, because you're not allowing her to engage with these fanciful mythical beings, these fanciful mythical characters. You're stifling her imagination. And I did hear that from people. Well, maybe. Would I consider telling a young person that Father Christmas is coming on Christmas Eve to be a breach of the fourth precept? Well, no, I suppose, because remember, at the root of these precepts is the move towards becoming more like the Buddha, the move towards becoming enlightened, the move towards becoming more ethical, causing less harm to others. It's a famous story, of course, which you probably know about because it's a very famous Buddhist story of a lady whose child had died, who went to the Buddha hoping that the Buddha could revive the child, and the Buddha told her to go and get a mustard seed from a house, but the mustard seed must be from a house where nobody had died. And the story goes that the lady could not find a house where death had not been. Every house she went to get mustard seeds, someone had died in that house. And she came to understand the truth of the nature of death. Well, did the Buddha lie? Or did he deceive? Did he somehow coerce this mother, this grieving mother, making her believe that he could bring her child back to life with mustard seeds, when actually he was trying to help her come about an understanding about impermanence without just telling her, because these things have to be experienced. You can't intellectually understand impermanence. Well, you can, but it's a deeper understanding when you experience it yourself. So did the Buddha lie to that mother? Well, maybe. I don't know. There is a principle that comes up in the Mahayana Buddhism, and perhaps more so in Vajrayana Buddhism, Tantric Buddhism, the idea of skillful means. These precepts are for us, we're not enlightened. But an enlightened being doesn't need to live by the precepts. The precepts are to make us more like those beings, but those beings are already enlightened. The Buddhas and Bodhisattvas don't need guidelines for how to live as a Buddha or a Bodhisattva. They already are them. So maybe these actions would have been seen as unskillful from our point of view because we're unenlightened, but from the point of view of an enlightened being who can see the bigger picture, they were perfectly skillful actions. Now, as an unenlightened being, I can't make a decision about what is and what is not skillful. That's outside my remit. So the fourth precept, false speech. There is a positive side to that precept. All the precepts have positive sides to them, which is with truthful communication, I purify my speech. So here we're not talking about body actions anymore, we're talking about communication, and there is a move towards trying to be as truthful as possible. The problem is, very often, truth is subjective. And that can lead to conflict where your truth may conflict with somebody else's truth. And so people who, in the tradition that I follow, people who wish to go deeper in their practice can undertake not just 5 precepts, but 10 precepts. Now, these 10 precepts within my tradition are different to the 10 precepts that may be presented in another tradition and another one yet, and so on. They're all slightly different, but they all have the same flavor to them. They're all very similar in what they stand for. So let's have a little look at how the fourth precept is elaborated on within my tradition. We go from having just one speech precept about lying into 4 speech precepts. The first of those is still truthfulness. With truthful communication, I purify my speech. But the other 3 are about kindly communication, helpful communication, and harmonious communication. And these ideas of truthfulness, kindliness, helpfulness, and harmoniousness can be found in the Pali Canon. They are ideas that the Buddha has said we should measure our communication against these ideas. If our communication is kind but not helpful, we shouldn't do it. If our communication is helpful but not harmonious, we shouldn't do it, and so on. The negative side to these precepts, abstaining from false speech, is still there, but now we have harsh speech as the opposite of kindly speech. We avoid harsh speech. Useless speech as opposed to helpful speech. Okay. And slanderous speech instead of harmonious speech. So you can see that the speech precept is a lot more than just being truthful. We have to think about using our speech as an expression of our intentions towards enlightenment. And sometimes it's better to remain silent, and that can be very difficult. So it might be that you're married to somebody and your spouse likes a bit of gossip about someone. That can be quite difficult, because gossip, while it may be kindly, it won't be kindly, will it? Well, it might be helpful in the context of your relationship with your spouse, helpful in building that relationship, and harmonious in the sense that it builds harmony within the household with your spouse. And it may be truthful from the view that you have, your truth, that perhaps you both share while you're gossiping. It's not kindly. Now, you may say, but it's kind to your spouse to allow them to engage in this sort of communication as an outlet, and it's not kind to somebody else, but they'll never hear about it. But all these sorts of things, like gossip, they're going to build sanskaras in our mind, which is a technical term which we can come back to later, formations, habits, ways of thinking. They build them up, these, I think Sanskara is literally translated as the ruts that a cart leaves as it goes along a muddy path. It leaves little ruts in the wheels, so that future carts, the wheels are more likely to slip into the same ruts. So we do the same thing mentally. If we're in the habit of saying things about somebody behind their back, even if it's just to our spouse or our partner, then when we talk to them in person, we've got to be very careful, because those habits, those formations are still there. So perhaps it's best not to gossip at all. What about in a place of work? It's very hard in a place of work. Everyone loves to moan about management. Of course they do. And it can build team spirit within the team. It's very difficult to stand aside and not engage in gossip. So how do you do that? So I found that it's easier for me at work. This is my own personal experience here. I'll say that I don't want to engage in gossip, and that will be the end of it. And my colleagues are quite respectful of that. It can be a bit harder in the context of friends or in the context of a partner, spouse. And the context of friends, if they are really good friends, then they will respect that you're trying not to engage in gossip. And I have a group of very good friends that we check each other's language and communication. If somebody within the group starts to engage in gossip, we'll challenge that. We all have the same aspirations. We are all trying to work towards enlightenment. We are all trying to work towards being better than we are. We're all trying to transform ourselves in that way. And so that relationship between my friends and I, that friendship group is very helpful for that. With a spouse, a little bit more difficult. And then each conversation has to be carefully measured and considered. Because, yeah, gossip can be damaging to one's mental state. It can be damaging to the way one reacts and interacts with the rest of the world. But at the same time, if you have a spouse, if you have a partner, you have to maintain good communication and close relationship with them as well. That can be very, very difficult to manage. And I do the best I can. I'm far from perfect. I'm not a Buddha. I don't have this view of skillful means from the view of a Buddha, and therefore, with skillful means, can choose when not to follow these precepts. But where these precepts I can't follow them for some reason, I'm doing so in the knowledge that the consequences, the suffering that would be caused by them to myself, that I will own that. I will take responsibility for that. If gossip leads to problems further down the line and I engage with the gossip, that is entirely my responsibility. It was me that chose to engage in the gossip after all. So, yes, the fourth precept I think is one of the hardest, if not the hardest precept to follow, because communication it's so easy to slip up and you can't go back and undo it once you've done it. So that's something to think about. I hope that has been enlightening. I hope that's been useful. And I hope that you'll join me in the next video where we will talk about the fifth precept. See you then.